I'm K-Chak and I specialise in being active on all 175 EU and US auction houses, and I just wanted to share one of the things I have been up to since the cancel scanning meta make legendaries absolutely unbearable for me to take part in anymore. I originally did not plan on doing this until right before 9.2 release, as this is obviously going to make it more competitive for me and less profitable with what I've been doing. However, hopefully a few of you will be able to make some gold off this as well now. As you are probably aware, Korthia has a variety of transmog shoulders that drop throughout the zone. A lot of these are difficult to farm. For example, some are 0.1% drop rates from chests, which means that once 9.2 releases and hardly anyone is in Korthia anymore, the supply of this transmog is going to drop dramatically. There are 18 sets of transmog shoulders from Korthia that are bind on equipped and can be sold on the auction house. I will, however, only be concentrating on the 14 on this list, as the other ones are just too common. To start with, we are basically flipping any that I feel are potentially underpriced on any realm across the whole EU or US. For anyone unfamiliar by flipping, I mean I'm buying low and relisting at what I feel is more an appropriate price, and I've been doing this for the last 6 months. I have taken my TSM ledger graphs for the individual pieces of transmog over these 6 months so that you can see all the sales, purchases, profit and loss during that time. This picture covers all EU and US realms except the EU Russian realms, as I use a separate TSM profile for those. However, what you are seeing in front of you is 95% of transactions from this project. As you can see, I've made some losses on some individual pieces and I've made some profit on others, but generally they're hovering around the region of breaking even over the 6 months. They do all, however, have one thing in common. That is that my number of items purchased is significantly higher than the number I have sold, so much so that I've built up a significant stockpile of premium transmog over the last 6 months. This table is basically all the numbers put together to make the information more digestible. I have manually added the small amount of Russian realms into this table. As you can see, I'm currently running at 754k profit this time for the project over the 6 months and currently have 1,544 sets of Korthia shoulders in stock. To give you some sort of scale for this number for comparison purposes, currently across all EU and US realms there is a total of 2,623 of these shoulders on all auction houses. Now obviously what is on the auction house isn't the only Korthia shoulders in the game. Some people will have them stockpiled in banks, some people probably have them and they don't even realise how much they're worth. You also have to take into account a good chunk of those 2,623 listed auctions are actually auctions I have listed on the auction house as well. Either way, I've given the numbers just to show a very approximate guess at my current market share. So what are you going to do when you do have such a large market share? Say for example you buy something for 10k and relist it on the auction house for 300k. If a potential buyer sees that this 300k listed item has a region value of 100k and is listed for 100k on most other servers, they are likely to be reluctant to buy, especially if this is a luxury purchase like Transmog, which they could well get cheaper at a later date. Now, if this same person sees the item has a region value of 300k, and on the vast majority of other servers it's listed at 300k, then surely that looks like the going rate for the item. So if they do want it, they are going to have to pay that price sooner or later wherever they are. So that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to change the market value and listing prices across the whole EU and US at once. It's quite simple really. I change one number in my TSM profile to list my auctions for a bit more, and because I have such a large market share, the region market value starts to rise. As the region market value goes up, this has the effect of making other goblins list the item for higher as well. This is because many goblins rely on this price for listing auctions, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as they help me pump the value up even more. So let's have a look at some results. This is one of my favourite bits of the new transmog, and if I tell you I increased my listing price on my TSM profile from 200k to 250k to 300k in the last 3 months, and we can see how it's influenced things. So on the left we have the prices pulled from the Undermine Journal in October 2021, and on the right the ones from January 2022. On the top we have the EU and the bottom we have the US. The numbers in the red boxes are the ones we're really interested in, as that is the region-wide values. On the EU side you can see that the median listed price has increased by 100k from 200k to 300k, while the mean price has gone up from 192k to 239k. On the US side, we see the median price has increased by 95k to 295k, while the mean price has jumped from 265k to 325k. You can see the general upward trend on the undermined journal regional graphs for the last 3 months as well. On the EU side, the regional price goes from 179k to 276k, while over the pond we see an increase from 228k to 355k over those 3 months. Now, I'm not going to go through all 14 sets of shoulders and their price histories, but I am just going to quickly do one more example. So here we have infiltrator shoulder guards. We can see the price doubles on the EU side from a median 75k to 150k, and the mean price goes from 106k to 222k. On the US side, the effect is less dramatic, with the median price increasing from 93k to 125k, while the mean price goes from 102k to 163k. On the undermined graph, we can see a steady, regular increase from 107k to 224k average market value EU side, while over in the US we have an irregular increase from 119k to 158k over the 3 months. So fantastic, we've increased regional prices across the board, but does this stuff even sell at these new higher prices? Now, if you looked at the graphs earlier on in the video, you'd have seen that sales have continued throughout for the last 3 months, even though we have been increasing the prices all the time. And that is when the player base is currently probably at the lowest it's been for a while. When we get some more players back into the game, there'll be more demand and we'll have even more sales then. So where did the 250 million gold clickbait title come from, and was it warranted? So it did not come from the regional or market values, as I only believe in using numbers of what you've actually managed to sell it for, because we have seen how easy it is to manipulate regional values. So I took the average amount I had sold each individual item for over the last 2 months, minus an auction house cut, and simply multiplied this by my current stock. So that currently stands at 251 million gold profit. So yes, it's going to take years for all this stuff to sell, but I am still making daily profit from BFA Island Transmog I picked up nearly 2 years ago, so that's not really an issue for me. And as we are going to see in the next section, 251 million gold may actually be a conservative estimate of profit depending on where we decide to take things from here. So now it's over to you. What are you going to do in this position going forward? So let's just have a quick review. You hold a huge market share. You are not quite at monopoly levels, but you can quite easily manipulate the EU and US region-wide prices if you so wish. This transmog is going to have a permanent drastic reduction in supply as soon as 9.2 releases, as hardly anyone will be in Korthia anymore. Even if people go back to try and get these, it is unlikely to be a large scale, as they are generally extremely random and rare, making them very difficult to farm. Once 9.2 releases, demand will temporarily spike, as there will be a new influx of players back into the game again as well. I would be curious to hear what people's approach would be from this position, but I'm going to go through the 4 potential tactics I have come up with. In particular, I would be eager to hear if anyone else had any other further approaches that I have not gone through. Number 1, you don't change anything. You carry on selling at current prices. When 9.2 releases, the increase in demand and the reduction in supply will drive the most sales out of any of these options. This option will make the most gold short term, but the least long term, and will probably be the one that gets the closest to the 251 million gold figure I mentioned earlier. Option 2, you have a mini price hike. So you carry on selling when 9.2 releases, but you're going to increase your prices by 10 to 25%-ish. You will get less sales than in option 1 in the short term, but the increased demand and the reduced supply should allow for the price increase, especially as the transmog gets rarer over the time. So using this option, you should make more than the 251 million gold mentioned. So option 3, you can just bank everything. Throw everything in guild banks and forget about it probably until next expansion, possibly even later. You are literally waiting for as much of your competition to sell out as possible, as the reduced supply will mean less and less on the auction house over time. When you decide to come back and sell, the transmog will be rarer than it already is. You will have a much higher market share and you'll be able to take much higher prices than in the first 2 options. Option 4 is for you to hyperinflate prices. So you're going to hyperinflate prices to perhaps 2,000% of current value and maintain this over a few months. You are not going to make any sales throughout this period. Then you're going to pick a time when you know the WoW community and its player base is going to be at its peak, such as the release of a major patch, and then you are going to dump everything on the auction house at about 200% of current value. So for flippers in particular, it's going to look like it's listed at 10% of market value, but it's going to be 10% of your hyperinflated market value, which is still 200% of current value. You could even potentially do this in cycles, so pushing up the price between patches and then dumping on the auction house again when there is a major patch. So what are you going to do from here? Are you going to go with one of the options I have listed? Do you have a plan of your own that you wish to share? I would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.